So I'm going to get a lot of flack for this video, but I think I need to put it out. So here's the thing, every time I post about opportunities in US, etc., so many people comment about, hey, what about purchase power parity, high taxes in US, cost of living is like so high. So ultimately they somehow feel that nothing is good enough outside India, and somehow you should just sit back in India and be happy with whatever you have. Now, while I've taken a very balanced view of abroad versus India in all my videos, I do highlight the opportunities that are coming up in India, and I am the person who left a well-settled job and life in US to come back to India. I did not have any visa issues. I could have applied for my green card, etc. I gave it up all willingly because I do love India, okay? But I do feel that we need a realistic post about India. Because here's the thing, so external ministry recently posted a stat that since 2011 around 16 lakh Indians have given up on their citizenship, and the highest number was in 2022 when 2.25 lakh people gave up their Indian citizenship. So if India is so great, why are these people moving abroad? Let's find out. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Nistha from Scholar Strategy. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us with the YouTube algorithms. Alright, so let's get back to the topic on hand. So yes, Indian GDP is rising fast, and we have crossed $3.5 trillion in GDP. We have already overtaken superpowers like France, and we are going to soon cross UK as well, which is a big deal. We are investing big time in infrastructure, and great work is being done on national highways, which means more movement and more commerce in future. So all these, along with UPI payments, all those other success stories you hear. So yes, great things happening in India, but you cannot overlook some other factors which tells us that why it still makes sense to seek opportunities abroad, so that we can develop ourselves and then we can contribute back to India in our right potential. So let's look at these factors, and the number one factor I want to talk about is population, competition and quotas. Along with our GDP, our population is also rising. In fact, we have surpassed China, and we are the most populous country in the world today, right? So let's talk some numbers. So this leads to massive competition for everything, be it resources to education to jobs. And let's look at our exams. 2.2 million people write IIT JEE exam each year, and how many seats are there? Only 16,000. 1 million people write UPSC exam for only 1,000 seats, and this one really blew my mind. Railways exam is taken by 12.5 million people, and there are only 35,000 seats. That too depends on whether the government is recruiting or not. So are you telling me that only 16,000 Indians deserve to go to IIT? Of course not. There are many talented people who are not able to crack these exams, get a seat into these coveted competitions. What should they do? And if they are able to find a place in places like MIT, Harvard, Stanford, UIUC, shouldn't they go? Of course they should, right? The fact is, you cannot support 1.42 billion people with the resources that we have in India. So it's good that some people are emigrating and creating opportunities not only for themselves but rest of the Indians there as well. Now think about Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, Vinod Khosla. I'm glad these people went out, because what they were able to create in US is something maybe they would not have been able to create in India back then, right? So Indians are doing so well abroad. Just look at the average household incomes of Indian Americans, which by far is the most successful ethnic community in US. Indian Americans are earning $100,000 per year on an average, which is great news. So my point is, if some of the Indians are going abroad, creating these opportunities, sending back money to their families in India, it's good for us as well. So why are we so close-minded about emigration? Is it really brain drain, or is it just people looking for the best opportunities for themselves? It has nothing to do whether they love India or not. Second factor is education broadly sucks in India. Now, apart from handful of IITs, IIMs or AIMS, Indian institutes are light years behind in quality of education, and especially teachers. In US, I learned under Professor Ralph Johnson, who is the author of pioneering book in design patterns, under Professor Aswath Damodran, who is the god of valuation. There were many Nobel Prize winners teaching in NYU and Columbia when I was there. Now, these are the people who are truly passionate about their fields, right? It was only after studying in US that I actually realized कि India में तो मैंने कुछ भी नहीं सीखा था, and the huge difference in quality of teachers between US and India. Another thing about US universities is you get access to latest gadgets, kits, or scientific instruments, as opposed to India. I remember in my college, if they got a good kit or something, they would preserve it like a museum, and it was not accessible to students कि ये खराब ना हो जाए. But what's the point if students are not able to experiment on it, right? So in terms of resources also, there is a tremendous amount of difference. In Indore alone, I hear there are now 59 engineering colleges, and most of them have no teachers, no placements. So we are creating colleges, but we don't value our teachers. We don't incentivize people to do research. In fact, somebody posted on LinkedIn recently that there was a research assistant or researcher position advertised, and the compensation was, how much? 8,000 rupees per month. I mean, that is humiliating. That is what we are telling our researchers and teachers, that this is your value. And then we cry about the quality of teachers. So unless we invest in good quality teachers and school infrastructure, I doubt we will see a major difference. So the average teacher student ratio in India is 40:1 as compared to 17:1 in US. And in the 2018 PISA test, which measures the academic performance of 15-year-olds in reading, math and science, India ranked 73rd out of 77 countries. The USA ranked 17th. And lastly, India spends an average of $400 per student on education, as opposed to US, where they are spending $12,000 per student. So if I can get that better quality education in US, why will I not go? Third point is middle class is still struggling, According to a Oxfam report, only 5% of Indians own more than 60% of the country's wealth. And half of our country's population possesses only 3% of the country's wealth. So that just shows the huge inequality in wealth when we talk about India, because most of the people are still in that middle class zone where people are not earning more than 5 to 30 lakh per year. As opposed to, we have seen Indians who are able to emigrate abroad and create opportunities for themselves. They are on an average earning $100,000 per year, which is 80 lakh per year. Fourth point is around quality of work and promotions. So in India, my first job, I was getting 3 lakh per year, and my first salary in US right after masters was $100,000. So even if I talk about purchase power parity, 100,000 is what? Equivalent to a lifestyle with 22 lakh rupees in India. But I can never get that jump of 3 lakh to 22 lakh in India in 2 years, Similarly, I had a client who, after working for 10 years in Indian IT companies, had a package of, can you imagine, 15 lakh per year. And this was a solid person, right? But she was not good with office politics and all. In fact, she was so frustrated with the work life here that is when she decided to go to US. And after her masters, she was able to earn $150,000 package in US. And of course, work is much more respected, and she is doing better quality work as well. So overall, of course, there are in India, you will mostly find service kind of jobs, and many of these jobs are still working in US and European time zones, which means people are working in night shifts. Now combine that with you have to punch your cards. Indian companies are still tracking in when are the employees coming and leaving the office. Combine that with office politics and pressurizing or micromanaging Indian managers, and you get a truly miserable work-life balance. In fact, I never wanted to work in Indian offices after I came back from US. In US, no one really bugged me on weekends, and my manager respected our private lives, and we had a clear distinction between work life and our personal life. People were excited to do something on the weekends, and nobody cared really how much time you're spending in the offices. Of course, I'm not saying that we didn't have to work on the weekends. at all. We did have to sometime, but even when you did, they would consider it a favor that you're doing to the company rather than taking it for granted. And my manager also did not used to spend long hours in the office. He would leave around 6 p.m. or so, and we had the freedom to do so as well. So I never felt like that somebody is scrutinizing me for how much time I'm spending in the office in US, and that is something I really liked about there. Now in India, of course, some people will comment that yes, people are getting 1 crore salaries also in India, but I think that's a very, very minute population, and that's happening only in tech. And I think that was happening in either Amazon kind of companies were giving that package where again work-life balance is extremely tough. Some startups were giving it, but as we have seen startup funding going down, we have seen how volatile that was, and the people with very high salaries have been laid off. So those kind of challenges, the layoffs, the salary challenges, etc., they are very much happening in India. So overall, I feel in terms of work-life balance, the work culture in India leaves much to be desired for. Fifth point I want to talk about is the job market. We are hearing a lot of news around layoffs and unemployment. So let's talk about that a bit. Now the thing is, unemployment rate in India is not low. It is around 7.3%, and as compared, the unemployment rate in US is around 3.6% currently. Now till last year, Indian startups were on a boom. Everyone was talking about number of unicorns, and there were handsome salaries being paid. But then the global recession hit us as well, right? So to date, close to 90 Indian startups have sacked a total of 25,000 employees since the beginning of 2022. If Indian startups keep losing money and don't get back on track, we will have to say goodbye to these high packages that we were seeing. Also, here's an interesting point, right? As AI automation keeps killing jobs, Indian service industry is going to be at threat. So according to a report by McKinsey, it's estimated that around 800 million jobs could be lost to automation by 2030, and of these 600 million would be lost in developing countries including India. This means that many people in India will need to upskill or reskill in order to find new jobs in future. The government and businesses need to invest in training programs to help people develop the skills they need for the jobs of the future. Now, I have not seen any news or initiatives in Indian education to feel better about this. So if you're worried about global layoffs, don't be too confident about India, because India would be impacted large time as well, because once those tech jobs go away from US, they were being outsourced to India, they are going to be taken away as well. And finally, let's talk about PPP, the purchase power parity. I feel people are making too big a deal about it, okay? Alright, so theoretically, PPP tells me that the quality of life I can get in New York City in $100,000 annual salary is the same as that I can get with 22 lakh rupee salary in urban India, and maybe 10 lakh rupee salary in rural India. But can I really get the same standard of living? For example, can I call 911 for emergency services? Can I feel safe taking a public transport at night? Can I get clean toilets on the road? So PPP does not equate everything, right? Sure, it gives me a number value, but it's really hard to compare the quality of living in terms of numbers. When you're stuck in 3-hour traffic jams in Bangalore or Mumbai, or when a slight rain floods the whole roads of Gurgaon, then I do miss the solid infrastructure in the US, I miss the smooth and functional highways, I miss the convenience of subways, and I miss the experience of seeing musical shows like Broadways and visiting Central Parks. I could easily own a Mercedes or BMW in US than I can in India. I can buy a much bigger house in US than I can in India. So the thing is, everything cannot be equated, and PPP does not account for everything. So those were some of the points. That is the reality of India I wanted to talk about. I love India. I am the one who came back, and I am glad we are doing much better. I see the youth are much more confident than what they were at my time, and I absolutely love that. I wish India makes huge progress and we rise to top 3 economies of the world very soon, because we deserve to be there. We are hardworking, talented people. But at the same time, I am not close-minded about the kind of opportunities that are available. And patriotism does not mean, like, compromising on my dreams or not reaching my potential. I mean, if you're born in a village, your family encourages you to go to Delhi or Mumbai if you're getting better opportunities there. It does not mean that you don't like or love your village home anymore. So, I think we should not equate patriotism with staying back in India. If I can achieve my potential by going abroad and give back to my country multiple folds by achieving that potential, then that is the real patriotism for me. So this was about a lot of discussion that takes place between how bad everything except India is. So while I love India, I do want to have a balanced narrative about it, and that's all. There are still tremendous opportunities in US, and if I have to do it all over again, I would not hesitate in going back to US for my education and spending my 20s there. No regrets whatsoever, period. So that's it from my side. This is me signing off. What do you think about today's video? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time with a fresh new video. Take care. Bye-bye.